Your habits are the invisible forces shaping your destiny. Tiny daily actions, good or bad, compound over time, leading to success or failure. This audiobook reveals the science of small changes that create massive results. Ready to rewire your life? The transformation starts now. Introduction. Imagine this. Two people wake up at the same time every morning. They have the same goals, the same ambitions, and the same opportunities. But 5 years later, one of them is thriving, healthier, wealthier, and more successful than they ever imagined. The other, stuck in the same frustrating cycle, feeling like life is passing them by. What made the difference? It wasn't luck. It wasn't talent. It wasn't a once-in-a-lifetime breakthrough. It was something far more subtle, something most people completely overlook. Tiny, almost invisible daily habits. Habits determine your future far more than motivation, intelligence, or willpower ever could. They are the silent architects of your destiny. Every decision you make today, no matter how small, compounds over time, shaping the life you will live tomorrow. And yet, most people fail to recognize their power. They chase big, dramatic changes. They look for shortcuts, hacks, and overnight transformations. And in doing so, they completely miss the real secret to lasting success. Small, consistent improvements. This is what I call atomic habits, the tiny, incremental changes that seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, create extraordinary results. This book is about how to harness these small habits to transform your life, not through drastic overhauls, but through simple, sustainable adjustments. Why small habits matter more than you think. Here's a simple truth. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Most people believe success is about setting big goals. They tell themselves, if I could just lose 30 pounds, make 6 figures, or finally get organized, I'd be happy. But here's the problem. Goals don't create lasting change. Systems do. Let's say you want to run a marathon. Your goal is clear, 26.2 miles. But if you don't have a system for training, for eating right, for making running a habit, you will fail. Winners and losers have the same goals. The difference is the systems they build. This is why small habits matter. They create the foundation for sustainable success. They help you make progress effortlessly, without relying on motivation or willpower. And when you build the right habits, success becomes inevitable. How habits shape your identity and success. Most people try to change their habits by focusing on what they want to achieve. They say things like, I want to lose weight. I want to save more money. I want to be more productive. But real lasting change happens when you shift from focusing on what you want to do to who you want to become. Instead of saying, I want to lose weight, say, I am the kind of person who prioritizes health. Instead of saying, I want to save money, say, I am the kind of person who makes smart financial choices. Instead of saying, I want to be more productive, say, I am the kind of person who manages time effectively. Identity-based habits are the most powerful because they change the way you see yourself. And once you see yourself differently, your behavior follows naturally. This is why people who identify as runners don't have to force themselves to run. Running is just something they do because it aligns with who they are. The same is true for healthy eaters, successful entrepreneurs, and high performers in any field. They don't just act differently, they think differently. This book will show you exactly how to shift your identity by making small but powerful changes in your daily habits. Because when you become the kind of person who naturally does the things that lead to success, success is no longer something you chase, it's something you attract. The 4 laws of behavior change, the foundation of this book. So, How do you build good habits effortlessly? How do you break bad ones without struggle? How do you rewire your brain for success? This book is built around a simple but powerful framework: the 4 laws of behavior change. These 4 principles make good habits easy and bad habits hard. They are: 1. Make it obvious. If you want to adopt a new habit, you need to design your environment to make the right choice the easy choice. 2. Make it attractive. Habits stick when they feel rewarding. We'll explore how to use temptation bundling and dopamine-driven rewards to make new habits irresistible. 3. Make it easy. The smaller and simpler a habit is, the more likely it is to become automatic. We'll focus on how to reduce friction and create habits that fit effortlessly into your life. 4. Make it satisfying. The more immediate feedback and rewards a habit provides, the stronger it becomes. We'll dive into reinforcement strategies that make habits stick for the long run. By applying these 4 laws, you'll be able to build habits that last a lifetime without relying on willpower, motivation, or discipline. A new approach to changing your life. Most people fail to build good habits because they try to do too much, too fast. They get excited about a new goal, make drastic changes, and then burn out. This book isn't about forcing yourself to change overnight. It's about making change feel easy, natural, and inevitable. It's about creating a system where success happens automatically because your habits are designed to lead you there. By the time you finish this book, you'll have a complete, step-by-step strategy for transforming your habits, reshaping your identity, and achieving your biggest goals. Not through overwhelming effort, but through simple, small, and sustainable improvements. Because in the end, it's not about making massive changes, it's about getting 1% better every day. And when you do that, the results will be bigger than you ever imagined. Welcome to Atomic Habits. Your transformation starts now. Chapter 1. The surprising power of atomic habits. We often imagine transformation as something grand. A single moment of brilliance. A breakthrough so powerful that life is divided into before and after. We celebrate athletes for their record-breaking performances, entrepreneurs for their billion-dollar ideas, and artists for their overnight success. Yet, if you look closer, beneath the surface of every seemingly instant success is an invisible force at work. A slow, deliberate accumulation of effort, small choices made daily, often unnoticed. If you've ever tried to change your habits, whether it's exercising, eating healthier, quitting a bad habit, or just trying to become more productive, you've probably faced a frustrating realization. Change is painfully slow. You put in the work, follow the advice, stay disciplined for days or even weeks, yet nothing seems to happen. The weight on the scale barely moves, your bank account doesn't grow, and your efforts at self-improvement feel like they're evaporating into thin air. This is the moment when most people give up, not because they lack motivation or because they're incapable, but because they don't see immediate results. They assume their actions aren't working, and so they stop. But here's the truth. Real change is happening. You just can't see it yet. The ice cube analogy. Why habits feel useless at first. Picture an ice cube sitting on a table. The room is cold, maybe 26 degrees Fahrenheit. The cube sits there unchanged. You turn the temperature up 1 degree. Nothing happens. Another degree. Still nothing. It remains frozen, unchanged. 28 degrees, 29 degrees, 30 degrees. No visible difference. But then something incredible happens. At 32 degrees, the ice begins to melt. That 1 degree shift causes a fundamental transformation. Was it that final degree that changed everything? It was the accumulation of heat, the gradual warming over time. This is exactly how habits work. Small changes appear meaningless at first. they don't seem to make a dent in your reality. But just like that ice cube, progress is happening beneath the surface. Your job is to keep adding heat, even when you don't see immediate results. Most people quit before their ice cube melts. They assume their efforts are wasted because they can't see the transformation happening beneath the surface. But what if they had just kept going for one more degree? The plateau of latent potential. Why we give up too soon. We often expect progress to be linear, like climbing a staircase, where each step gives us a noticeable improvement. But reality follows a different pattern. Change doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens in a curve. There's a period where all your efforts seem to go unrewarded, a stretch I call the plateau of latent potential. This is the valley where dreams die. It's the period where you're working hard but see no immediate payoff. It's why people quit the gym after a few weeks, abandon their diets after a month, or give up on learning a new skill. They believe their effort isn't working when in reality, they are building the foundation for a breakthrough. Success doesn't come from a single massive action. It comes from consistently stacking small, seemingly insignificant improvements. The hardest part is trusting the process, even when you can't see the results yet. A real-life example, the British cycling team's transformation. For years, British cycling was a joke. The team had struggled for nearly a century, winning only a single Olympic gold medal. Their performance was so bad that bike manufacturers refused to sell them equipment out of fear it would tarnish their reputation. But in 2003, everything changed. A man named Dave Brailsford was hired as the team's new coach. His philosophy was simple: the aggregation of marginal gains, a concept that would later change the world of sports. Instead of looking for one massive improvement, he focused on making hundreds of tiny 1% changes. He adjusted the bike seats for optimal comfort. He redesigned their clothing to be more aerodynamic. He had the team wash their hands a specific way to avoid illness. He even found the best pillows for improving sleep. None of these things alone made a significant difference, but together, they led to a transformation. 5 years later, British cyclists dominated the Beijing Olympics, winning 60% of the gold medals. 4 years after that, they shattered records in London. And in the years that followed, they went on to win 5 Tour de France victories. That's the power of small, consistent improvements. Tiny, seemingly insignificant changes, when applied consistently, create results so extraordinary they look like miracles. But they're not miracles. They're just the result of compounding effort. Why we overestimate big changes and underestimate small ones. Most people believe that massive success requires massive action. We assume that in order to get fit, we need to completely overhaul our diet and exercise daily. That to become wealthy, we need a brilliant business idea. That to become successful, we need to grind relentlessly, sacrifice sleep, and push ourselves to the limit. But this thinking is flawed. Big changes rarely stick because they're overwhelming. When we try to do too much at once, we burn out. We revert to old habits. The key isn't radical action, it's small, sustainable improvements. If you can get 1% better every day, that improvement compounds. At first, the difference is barely noticeable, but over time, it's staggering. A 1% improvement each day means you're 37 times better after a year. But if you get 1% worse each day, you'll decline almost to zero. This is why habits matter. They determine the trajectory of your life, not just your results. Identity-based habits, the missing piece in behavior change. Most people who try to change their habits start with a simple idea. What do I want to achieve? They set goals. They create plans. They tell themselves that this time will be different. Maybe they want to lose weight, read more books, wake up earlier, or stop procrastinating. But even when they have a clear goal and a well-thought-out plan, something happens along the way. They slip back into old patterns, abandon their routines, and end up right where they started. It's not because they lack motivation or willpower. It's not because they're lazy or incapable. It's because they're focusing on the wrong thing. Most people approach habit change by starting at the outcome level, what they want to achieve. They might even focus on the process, what they need to do to get there. But very few focus on the deepest level of change: identity. Here's the secret that most self-improvement advice misses. The key to lasting change isn't about achieving better results. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally achieves those results. It's about identity-based habits, shaping your habits around the kind of person you believe yourself to be. This is why so many people fail at habit change. They start by trying to force new actions into their lives instead of reshaping their identity. They tell themselves things like, "I need to go to the gym so I can lose weight. I have to wake up early because successful people do. I should stop smoking because it's bad for me." But deep down, they still see themselves as someone who dislikes exercise, someone who isn't a morning person, someone who is a smoker. They may be trying to act differently, but their self-image hasn't changed. And when your identity doesn't match your actions, your brain always finds a way to pull you back to what feels comfortable. This is why some people spend years struggling to make a habit stick. They try to force themselves to behave a certain way, but inside, they still believe they're the kind of person who doesn't do those things. That's the real reason why habits fail. How identity shapes your actions. Your behaviors are a reflection of the person you believe yourself to be. If you think of yourself as not a runner, you will always find reasons to skip your workouts. If you see yourself as bad with money, you'll keep making impulsive purchases. If you think of yourself as a messy person, you'll never truly develop the habit of keeping things organized. But what happens when you shift your focus from what you want to do to who you want to become? Suddenly, everything changes. A person who sees themselves as a runner doesn't have to force themselves to go for a run. It's simply part of who they are. A person who sees themselves as a non-smoker doesn't have to resist cigarettes. They're just not something they do. A person who identifies as financially responsible naturally avoids unnecessary spending because that's who they are. This is why identity change comes before behavior change. If you want to build a habit that sticks, you need to start by shifting the way you see yourself. Instead of saying, "I want to run a marathon," start by saying, "I am a runner." Instead of saying, "I need to eat healthier," say, "I am the kind of person who eats nourishing foods." This isn't just a mental trick. It's a fundamental shift in how habits work. When your identity aligns with your actions, change becomes effortless. The two-step process for identity change. If identity is the key to lasting habits, how do you actually change it? The good news is that it's simpler than you think. Identity change happens in 2 steps. 1. Decide the type of person you want to become. 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. The first step is simple. Decide what kind of person you want to be. If you want to be fit, don't just set a goal to lose weight. Decide to become the kind of person who takes care of their body. If you want to be a writer, don't just set a goal to write a book. Become the kind of person who writes every day. The second step is where the real magic happens. Prove it to yourself with small actions. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Every time you go to the gym, you're proving to yourself that you are a fit person. Every time you pick up a book, instead of scrolling on your phone, you're proving to yourself that you are a reader. Every time you save money instead of spending it, you're proving to yourself that you are financially responsible. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right every time. You just need more votes in favor of your new identity than against it. Over time, as the votes add up, your identity shifts. And when your identity shifts, your habits follow naturally. Why identity-based habits work when other methods fail. Most habit change strategies fail because they focus too much on outcomes and not enough on who you are becoming. When people try to build a new habit, they often rely on motivation, discipline, or willpower. But those things are temporary. They fluctuate. Some days you feel motivated, other days you don't. And when the motivation fades, so does the habit. Identity-based habits, on the other hand, don't rely on motivation. They rely on belief. When a habit is tied to your identity, you don't need to force yourself to do it. It happens naturally because it's part of who you are. Think about it this way. If you identify as a vegetarian, you don't have to use willpower to avoid meat. It's just something you don't eat. If you identify as a musician, you don't have to force yourself to practice. It's just part of your life. If you identify as a healthy person, you naturally make choices that support your well-being. This is the missing piece in most self-improvement advice. People try to change their actions without changing their identity, and that's why they struggle. When you focus on becoming the kind of person who does the thing, the habit becomes effortless. What this means for you. Right now, think about the habits you want to build. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, ask yourself, who do I need to become to make this a reality? Then start proving it to yourself with small wins. Want to become a reader? Read 1 page today. Want to become fit? Do 5 push-ups right now. Want to become organized? Clean just 1 drawer. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is that you cast a vote for your new identity. Every small action is a step toward becoming the kind of person who naturally does what you want to do. The goal isn't just to change your habits, it's to change who you are. Because when your identity shifts, your habits take care of themselves. Chapter 2. How your habits shape your identity, and vice versa. Every day you wake up and begin a series of actions that seem almost automatic. Maybe you reach for your phone before getting out of bed, scrolling through emails or social media. Maybe you brush your teeth without thinking, make coffee the same way you always do, and take the same route to work or school. These routines feel like second nature, like they're just what you do. But what if I told you that they're not just actions? What if these habits, these small, seemingly insignificant behaviors, are actually defining who you are? Most people believe that identity is something fixed, something you're born with, and that rarely changes. But the truth is, your identity is fluid, constantly being shaped by the things you do and the choices you make every single day. The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce a certain image of yourself. Think about someone who smokes a cigarette every morning. Over time, they don't just see themselves as someone who smokes, they begin to believe they are a smoker. Someone who reads a book before bed each night starts to see themselves as a reader. A person who consistently skips workouts even when they plan to exercise may begin to believe they are just not the kind of person who works out. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity reinforces your habits. It's a two-way street, a cycle that can either work for you or against you. Why identity-based habits are the key to lasting change. Most people approach self-improvement by focusing on outcomes. They say things like, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to run a marathon. I want to be more productive. But this is a flawed approach because it focuses only on results. Goals are good for setting direction, but they don't keep you moving. This is why so many people set goals and never achieve them. They don't shift their identity. They only try to force new actions. A better approach is to focus on who you are becoming, not just what you want to accomplish. Instead of saying, I want to lose 20 pounds, you say, I am the type of person who prioritizes my health. Instead of saying, I want to run a marathon, you say, I am a runner. Instead of saying, I want to be more productive, you say, I am someone who values my time and energy. Why does this work? Because behavior that is congruent with your identity lasts. When you become the type of person who does something, you no longer need to rely on motivation or willpower. It just happens naturally. Let's say you decide to start waking up early to work on a passion project. If you only see this as a short-term challenge, you'll rely on discipline to push through, and eventually, you may slip back into sleeping in. But if you begin to identify as a person who values mornings and gets up early, waking up early is no longer something you have to force yourself to do. It's just who you are. This is the foundation of lasting habit change. The real goal isn't to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. The real goal isn't to write a book, it's to become a writer. The real goal isn't to meditate, it's to become a mindful person. When you see yourself differently, your actions follow. The power of small proofs. How to reinforce your new identity. Your identity isn't just something you decide overnight. It's something you prove to yourself over time. Every small action you take is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. When you exercise, you cast a vote for being a fit person. When you read, you cast a vote for being a knowledgeable person. When you make your bed, you cast a vote for being an organized person. The key is that it doesn't have to be a big dramatic change. Too often, people think transformation requires a massive, life-altering shift. But identity change happens through small, consistent actions, not one-time decisions. Imagine someone who wants to become a writer. Instead of forcing themselves to write for hours each day, they commit to writing just one sentence. At first, this might seem insignificant, but over time, that one sentence turns into paragraphs, then pages, then chapters. Eventually, they don't just want to be a writer, they have become one. The same applies to any habit. If you want to be healthier, start with a 10-minute walk, not an intense workout. If you want to be more focused, start with a single distraction-free hour each day, not a complete digital detox. The point is to prove to yourself over and over again that you are becoming the person you want to be. Why every action matters, even when it feels small. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to change is underestimating the power of small habits. They think that because an action is tiny, it doesn't matter. But every action you take is shaping your identity. Every choice is a vote. Every time you show up at the gym, even if it's for 10 minutes, you reinforce the identity of someone who works out. Every time you choose water over soda, you reinforce the identity of someone who makes healthy choices. Every time you put your phone down and focus on a task, you reinforce the identity of someone who is disciplined. It's easy to dismiss small actions as unimportant, but they add up. Think of a person trying to quit smoking. If they believe they are just a smoker trying to quit, they will always feel like they are fighting against their true nature. But if they start seeing themselves as a non-smoker, every time they refuse a cigarette, it reinforces that identity. Eventually, smoking isn't just something they try to quit. It's something they don't do. This is how change happens, not by sheer willpower, but by shifting your identity, action by action. The shift that changes everything. Right now, think about the habits you've been struggling with. Have you been trying to force yourself to act differently without changing the way you see yourself? If so, it's time to flip the script. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. Then start casting votes for that identity through small daily actions. The more you reinforce this identity, the more natural your new habits will feel. The secret to lasting habit change isn't found in motivation or discipline. It's found in who you believe you are. When your habits align with your identity, they no longer feel like something you have to do. They become something you just do. Chapter 3. The Science of Habit Formation. How Habits Are Built and Broken. Imagine waking up in a world where you remember nothing about your daily routine. No automatic instinct to stretch or check your phone. No impulse to brush your teeth, make coffee, or follow the familiar sequence of getting dressed and heading out the door. Every single action would require conscious effort. Deciding how to start your morning, remembering which side of the closet holds your clothes, figuring out where you keep your toothbrush. The mental strain would be overwhelming, and by the time you even made it to breakfast, you'd likely feel drained from the sheer number of decisions required just to get through the first hour of the day. This thought experiment might seem extreme, but it highlights an essential truth about human behavior. Habits exist to free up cognitive energy, allowing us to function efficiently without having to constantly think about every little step we take. The human brain is an efficiency machine designed to automate repetitive actions so that we don't have to waste mental energy on them. Every day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, your brain is running an intricate system of pre-programmed behaviors, actions you barely notice but that shape your entire life. You don't decide to check your phone first thing in the morning. You just do it. You don't consciously think about fastening your seatbelt before driving. Your body moves through the action without effort. The more a behavior is repeated, the stronger the neurological pathways reinforcing that behavior become, turning once conscious decisions into automatic habits. Over time, your brain learns to execute these behaviors without hesitation, embedding them so deeply into your routine that they feel like second nature. This built-in efficiency is what allows you to focus on more complex tasks without getting bogged down by the small details of daily life. Without habits, your brain would be forced to dedicate precious mental resources to every single action, leaving little capacity for creativity, problem-solving, or deep thinking. Imagine having to consciously decide how to tie your shoes every morning, or having to actively remember how to drive every time you sat behind the wheel. Life would be an exhausting series of never-ending decisions, and your ability to focus on anything meaningful would be severely limited. Habits are the brain's way of offloading these repetitive processes so that you can use your mental energy on things that actually matter. But while this automation is incredibly useful, it also comes with a downside. The brain doesn't distinguish between good and bad habits. It simply reinforces whatever is repeated. This is why breaking a bad habit can feel nearly impossible, even when you logically understand that it's harmful. Whether it's procrastinating, stress eating, doom scrolling on social media, or any other counterproductive behavior, the reason these actions are so difficult to stop isn't a lack of willpower. It's because your brain has wired them so deeply into your neural circuits that they become the default response to certain triggers. The same mechanism that allows you to effortlessly drive to work without thinking about every turn is the same mechanism that keeps you reaching for your phone whenever you're bored. If a behavior has been reinforced enough times, your brain treats it as an automatic pattern, something that happens without conscious thought, almost like a reflex. The key to lasting change isn't just about motivation or discipline. It's about understanding how habits are built at a neurological level and using that knowledge to rewire your brain in a way that supports your long-term goals. If bad habits form because they've been reinforced repeatedly, then good habits can be formed the exact same way. The only difference is that most people don't consciously design their habits. They let their habits design them. But what if you could take control of this process? What if, instead of being trapped by unhelpful routines, you could deliberately create habits that push you towards success? The first step to doing that is understanding the simple but powerful loop that drives every habit you have. The habit loop, the simple formula that shapes every habit. For decades, researchers have studied human behavior in an attempt to understand why certain habits stick while others fade away. One of the most groundbreaking discoveries in the science of habit formation came from studies conducted at MIT, where neuroscientists uncovered a fundamental truth. Every single habit, no matter how big or small, follows the same neurological pattern. Whether it's biting your nails, drinking coffee, exercising, or constantly checking your phone, every habit operates through a three-step feedback loop. This loop consists of 1. The cue, a trigger that signals your brain to initiate the habit. This could be an external stimulus, like a notification on your phone, or an internal feeling, like stress, boredom, or fatigue. 2. The routine, the behavior or action itself. This is the habit in motion, the response your brain has programmed as the default reaction to the cue. 3. The reward, the benefit your brain receives from completing the habit. This could be physical, a rush of dopamine, emotional, relief from stress, or psychological, a sense of accomplishment. This cycle happens so effortlessly that we often don't even realize it's happening. The brain recognizes the cue, executes the routine, and experiences the reward, reinforcing the habit further. Over time, this loop becomes so ingrained that the mere presence of the cue is enough to trigger the routine, even before we consciously think about it. The habit becomes reflexive, automatic, and deeply embedded into our daily life. Let's look at how this plays out with a simple everyday example. Imagine you wake up feeling groggy and sluggish. This is the cue. Your body signals that it needs an energy boost, so you follow your usual routine, making a cup of coffee. After drinking it, you experience the reward, a burst of alertness and wakefulness that helps you start your day. Your brain registers this positive outcome and reinforces the connection. Coffee equals energy. The next time you wake up feeling sluggish, your brain doesn't even hesitate. It automatically directs you toward making coffee. Eventually, the behavior becomes so automatic that you don't even question it. You just wake up and make coffee because that's what you do. Now consider how the same loop applies to a bad habit. Let's say you feel stressed after a long day at work, cue. Instead of dealing with the stress in a productive way, your brain has learned a different routine, reaching for your phone and mindlessly scrolling through social media. As you scroll, you experience a brief sense of distraction and relief, reward, even though it doesn't actually solve your stress. The problem is, your brain still perceives this short-term relief as a positive outcome, so it reinforces the habit further. The next time you feel stressed, your brain automatically nudges you toward your phone because that's what has provided relief in the past. Over time, this behavior becomes deeply ingrained, and before you know it, reaching for your phone when you're stressed isn't a conscious decision. It's an automatic response. This is the fundamental reason why bad habits stick so easily, while good habits often feel harder to build. Bad habits usually offer immediate rewards, a moment of relief, pleasure, or distraction, even if they have long-term negative consequences. Good habits, on the other hand, often have delayed rewards. Exercising today won't make you fit overnight. Reading one book won't instantly make you wise. Saving money won't make you rich immediately. Because the brain is wired to prioritize short-term gratification over long-term benefits, we naturally gravitate toward behaviors that offer instant payoff, even when we know they aren't in our best interest. But what if you could reverse engineer this process? What if you could design good habits in a way that makes them just as effortless as the bad ones? That's exactly what we'll explore next. How to hack the habit loop to make positive behaviors automatic and effortless, while eliminating the habits that hold you back. Chapter 4. Rewiring your identity. How small habits create lasting change. Picture this. Two people are offered a cigarette. The first person declines, saying, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second person also declines, but with a different response. "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." At first glance, these answers might seem similar, but there's a powerful difference between them. One person still sees themselves as a smoker who's resisting temptation, while the other has completely redefined their identity. They are no longer someone trying to quit smoking. They are simply not a smoker. This small distinction holds the secret to long-term habit change. True transformation doesn't happen when you focus solely on changing your behavior. It happens when you change your identity at the core. Most people approach habit change the wrong way. They focus on the outcome they want, rather than the type of person they want to become. Someone who wants to lose weight might say, "I want to get fit." Someone trying to write a book might say, "I want to be a writer." Someone who wants to save money might say, "I want to be financially secure." But these are all outcome-based goals. They focus on what you want to achieve, rather than who you need to become in order to achieve it. The reason most resolutions fail is that they rely on external motivation rather than internal identity. If you only focus on outcomes, your actions will always feel like an effort, something you have to force yourself to do. But when your identity aligns with your habits, your actions become effortless because they are simply a natural extension of who you believe yourself to be. Think about it this way. If you see yourself as a person who hates exercise, every workout will feel like a battle against your own identity. No matter how much you try to push yourself, you'll subconsciously resist because deep down, you don't see yourself as someone who enjoys being active. But if you shift your identity to, "I am the kind of person who prioritizes movement," suddenly, working out becomes something you do because it's simply a part of who you are. The same goes for any other habit. If you identify as a reader, picking up a book isn't a chore. If you see yourself as a healthy eater, choosing nutritious food feels natural. If you identify as a disciplined person, sticking to your habits becomes second nature. This is the power of identity-based habits. When you shift your focus from, "I need to do this," to, "This is who I am," habit formation becomes effortless. Instead of relying on sheer willpower to fight against old habits, you rewire your brain to align with the new identity you want to build. This is how true, lasting change happens, not by forcing yourself to behave differently, but by becoming the kind of person for whom that behavior is automatic. But here's the catch. Identity change doesn't happen overnight. You can't just declare, "I am a runner," and expect to suddenly love running if you've never done it before. Your identity is shaped by evidence, small, repeated actions that reinforce the type of person you want to be. Every time you go for a run, you cast a vote for the identity of a runner. Every time you choose a healthy meal, you reinforce the identity of a healthy eater. Every time you write, you prove to yourself that you are a writer. Identity is not built in a single moment. It is built through hundreds of small actions, each one a tiny confirmation of who you are becoming. And this is why small habits matter more than most people realize. When you focus only on big, dramatic changes, you set yourself up for failure because large-scale transformations are overwhelming. But when you focus on small, consistent wins, you create an undeniable trail of evidence that supports your new identity. It's not about running a marathon overnight. It's about lacing up your running shoes today, even if you only jog for 5 minutes. It's not about writing an entire novel in a week. It's about committing to writing one paragraph today. Every small habit is a vote toward the person you want to become, and the more votes you accumulate, the stronger that identity becomes. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to change their habits is focusing too much on results rather than identity shifts. If your goal is to read 50 books a year, what happens if you only read 30? You'll feel like you failed, even though you still read 30 books. But if your focus is on becoming a reader, then every time you pick up a book, you are succeeding, because your identity is built through the action, not the result. This is the fundamental mindset shift that makes habits stick. Instead of thinking, "I have to achieve this goal," start thinking, "I am the type of person who does this." The more you act in alignment with this identity, the more your brain begins to see it as reality. So the real question is, who do you want to become? Not just what do you want to achieve, but what kind of person do you want to be? If you want to become fit, start by telling yourself, "I am the kind of person who moves every day." If you want to be productive, shift your mindset to, I am the kind of person who takes action. If you want to be financially secure, start reinforcing, I am someone who makes smart financial choices. The more you repeat these small actions, the more they shape your reality, because your actions are simply a reflection of who you believe yourself to be. Your identity is not fixed. You are not stuck being the person you were yesterday. You have the power to redefine yourself at any moment, not by forcing change, but by proving to yourself one small habit at a time that you are already becoming the person you want to be. The secret to lasting transformation isn't in chasing a goal. It's in shifting your identity so that the behaviors that lead to that goal become natural, effortless, and automatic. And that journey starts today with one small action, one tiny vote for the person you want to become. Because every habit you build isn't just about changing what you do. It's about changing who you are. Chapter 5. The hidden force that shapes your habits. The power of your environment. Imagine you walk into your kitchen after a long day, exhausted and hungry. Your brain is craving something quick, something easy. You glance at the counter and see a bowl of fresh fruit sitting right there within reach. Without even thinking, you grab an apple and take a bite. It's effortless, automatic. Now imagine a different scenario. You walk in, just as tired, just as hungry, but this time there's no fruit on the counter. Instead, your eyes land on a bag of chips sitting on the table. Without hesitation, you rip it open and start munching. You didn't make a conscious decision to eat the chips instead of the apple. Your environment made the choice for you. This is the hidden force that shapes your habits, the environment you place yourself in. Most people believe that their habits are shaped by willpower and motivation. They think that if they just try hard enough, they'll be able to resist temptation and build good habits. But here's the truth. Willpower is a finite resource. No matter how strong you are, it will eventually run out. That's why relying on self-control alone is one of the biggest mistakes you can make when trying to change your habits. Instead of fighting against your environment, you need to design your environment to work for you. Think about it. If you keep your phone next to your bed, it's almost impossible not to check it first thing in the morning. If your workspace is cluttered and messy, your mind will feel the same way. If you surround yourself with distractions, no amount of discipline will keep you focused. Your habits are not just a product of your motivation. They are a product of your surroundings. The easiest way to build good habits is not by relying on willpower, but by making them the most obvious and accessible choice in your environment. Take a moment to think about your daily life. How often do you make decisions based on what's easiest, rather than what's best? When your gym clothes are buried in the back of your closet, how likely are you to work out? When your fridge is filled with junk food, how easy is it to eat healthy? When your TV remote is sitting right next to you, how hard is it to resist watching just one more episode? Your environment is constantly nudging you in a certain direction, sometimes towards good habits, sometimes towards bad ones. The key to lasting change is designing an environment that nudges you towards success. The power of cues. Make good habits obvious. The first step in reshaping your environment is to make good habits as obvious as possible. Your brain is wired to respond to cues, the small triggers that tell you it's time to take action. If you want to drink more water, keep a bottle on your desk where you can see it. If you want to start reading more, place a book on your pillow so it's the last thing you see before bed. If you want to start journaling, leave your notebook open on your nightstand. The more visible and accessible a habit is, the more likely you are to do it. On the flip side, if you want to break a bad habit, the best strategy is to make it invisible. If you want to stop scrolling mindlessly on social media, delete the apps from your home screen. If you want to eat less junk food, don't keep it in the house. If you want to spend less time watching TV, unplug it after each use. The harder it is to access a bad habit, the less likely you are to engage in it. One of the most powerful ways to use this strategy is something called habit stacking. This means linking a new habit to something you already do naturally. For example, if you want to start meditating, you could stack it onto an existing habit. After I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 1 minute. If you want to start flossing, you could say, after I put my toothbrush away, I will floss 1 tooth. The key is to attach the new habit to a strong existing cue so that it becomes automatic over time. Reshaping your physical and social environment. While your physical surroundings play a huge role in shaping your habits, your social environment is just as important. Have you ever noticed how you tend to pick up the habits of the people around you? If your friends love working out, you're more likely to exercise. If your coworkers constantly snack on unhealthy food, you'll probably do the same. If your family is always watching TV, it's harder to avoid doing it yourself. Humans are wired for social conformity. We subconsciously adopt the behaviors of the people we spend the most time with. That's why one of the most powerful ways to build better habits is to surround yourself with people who already have the habits you want. If you want to get in shape, join a fitness group where exercise is the norm. If you want to write more, spend time with people who love writing. If you want to be more positive, limit time with negative people and seek out those who uplift you. One of the biggest reasons people fail to build better habits is because they try to do it in an environment that constantly works against them. If you are always fighting against temptation, struggling to stay disciplined, and trying to force yourself to act differently, you will eventually burn out. The solution is not more willpower. The solution is designing an environment where your desired habits are the default behavior. Your environment is the silent architect of your habits. Think of your environment as an invisible hand that is constantly shaping your behavior. If your space is filled with distractions, you will struggle to focus. If your fridge is stocked with healthy food, you will naturally eat better. If your friends are ambitious and motivated, you will be too. The key to long-term habit change is not struggling against your environment, but reshaping your environment so that the best choices become the easiest ones. So, take a look around. What small changes can you make today that will nudge you in the right direction? What cues can you add to make good habits more obvious? What obstacles can you remove to make bad habits harder? The choices you make about your environment will determine whether your habits stick or fade away. The best way to win is not by fighting harder, but by making sure the game is set up in your favor. Because in the end, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your environment. Chapter 6. The 2-minute rule. The science of making habits effortless. The biggest mistake people make when trying to build new habits is believing that change has to be massive to matter. They think that if they want to get fit, they need to hit the gym for an hour every day. If they want to become a reader, they must finish an entire book every week. If they want to start writing, they should produce 1,000 words every morning before breakfast. It sounds inspiring, but here's the harsh reality. This approach almost always fails. Not because people lack motivation or willpower, but because they rely too much on it. They assume that they'll always feel motivated enough to sustain these big changes, and when that motivation eventually fades, as it always does, they fall back into old habits, frustrated and feeling like they've failed. The truth is, change doesn't happen in big leaps. It happens through small, consistent actions that accumulate over time. The secret to lasting habit formation is not to start with huge, unsustainable efforts, but to focus on something so small that it feels impossible to fail. This is where the 2-minute rule comes in. It's a simple but profoundly effective strategy that removes the biggest barrier to habit formation. Starting. The rule is straightforward. When you begin a new habit, make sure it takes less than 2 minutes to do. Instead of committing to a full workout, commit to putting on your workout clothes. Instead of deciding to read for an hour, commit to reading 1 sentence. Instead of planning to meditate for 20 minutes, commit to just sitting still for 2 minutes. At first glance, this might seem too easy to matter, but that's the point. When something feels easy, you actually do it. When a habit feels effortless, resistance disappears. There's no excuse, no inner debate, no struggle with self-discipline. And here's what makes this strategy even more powerful. Once you start, continuing becomes natural. If you put on your running shoes and step outside, you might as well take a few steps. If you open a book and read one sentence, chances are you'll read a second. If you sit in a meditation pose for 2 minutes, it's easy to stay for 5. Small actions lead to momentum, and momentum leads to real, lasting habits. The science behind why small habits work. Most people assume that the hardest part of any habit is doing it. In reality, the hardest part is starting. Procrastination thrives in the space between intention and action. The longer you delay, the harder it becomes to begin. The 2-minute rule eliminates this hesitation by shrinking the habit down to its smallest possible form, making it too easy to resist. This works because of a psychological phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for our brains to hold on to unfinished tasks. Once we begin something, our minds feel compelled to continue it. That's why writers who start by writing just one sentence often end up writing an entire page, and why people who lace up their running shoes and step outside usually end up going for a full run. The simple act of starting creates a pull toward continuing. This strategy also aligns with the principle of identity-based habits. When people struggle to maintain habits, it's often because they're trying to force themselves into a new behavior instead of becoming the kind of person who naturally does it. If you want to be someone who reads more, don't aim to read a book overnight, just become a person who picks up a book every day. If you want to get in shape, don't force yourself into exhausting workouts, just become someone who puts on their gym clothes daily. Identity change happens through small, consistent signals, and each tiny action reinforces who you are becoming. The more you prove to yourself that you are the kind of person who does this habit, the easier it becomes to sustain it long term. Beating procrastination. With the 2-minute rule. One of the most powerful applications of the 2-minute rule is its ability to destroy procrastination. Most of the time, we don't procrastinate because we're lazy. We procrastinate because we feel overwhelmed. The task seems too big, too difficult, too time-consuming. So we put it off. But when you break a habit down into its smallest possible action, there's nothing to resist. If you need to study for an exam, don't plan a 3-hour session. Just open your notebook and read one line. If you need to clean your house, don't force yourself to scrub the whole kitchen. Just wash one dish. If you want to start journaling, don't set a goal of writing a full entry. Just open your notebook and write a single word. Once you've started, the pressure is gone, and often you'll find yourself naturally continuing. Even if you don't, that's okay, because the habit isn't about how much you accomplish at first, but about building the identity of someone who shows up. Consistency beats intensity every time, and when you master the art of showing up, progress is inevitable. The power of small wins. The 2-minute rule might seem too simple to matter, but in reality, it taps into one of the most powerful forces in psychology: the power of small wins. Every time you complete a tiny habit, no matter how small, it creates a psychological victory. That feeling of success fuels motivation, making it easier to keep going. Over time, these small wins compound into something much greater. Someone who starts by doing 1 push-up a day might find themselves doing 10. Someone who begins by reading 1 sentence before bed might find themselves reading for an hour. Someone who commits to writing just 1 line a day could eventually write an entire book. Small habits become big habits when they are repeated consistently. This is the key to lasting change. Most people try to start big and fail because they can't maintain it. But when you start small, you create a system that guarantees success. If you set a goal to do just one push-up, you can never fail. If you commit to writing just one sentence, you can never fail. And once you realize you can't fail, you keep going. The habit becomes natural, and soon it expands effortlessly. Final thoughts. Small steps lead to big change. When it comes to habit formation, starting small is not a weakness, it's a superpower. The biggest reason people fail at building habits is because they try to force themselves into massive changes all at once, only to burn out. But real change happens when you make it easy to succeed. By committing to habits that take just 2 minutes, you remove the friction that causes failure. You make success inevitable. You prove to yourself over and over again that you are the kind of person who follows through. And that, more than anything, is what makes habits last. If you've ever struggled to maintain a habit, don't make the mistake of starting too big. Instead, shrink it down. Make it ridiculously easy. Commit to showing up, not performing perfectly. Because once you master the art of showing up, everything else becomes effortless. Chapter 7. How to Stay Consistent. The Secret to Long-Term Habit Success. Imagine this. You start a new habit. You're excited, motivated, and fully committed. Maybe it's working out, eating healthier, waking up early, or reading more. At first, everything feels easy. You show up, do the work, and start seeing progress. But then, something shifts. Maybe life gets busy, stress creeps in, or you simply don't feel like it. You miss a day. It seems harmless, just one slip. But then another day goes by. Before you know it, you've fallen off track completely. Sound familiar? If so, you're not alone. This is the silent killer of good habits. Inconsistency. The biggest threat to lasting change isn't lack of knowledge, talent, or even motivation. It's simply not sticking with it long enough to see results. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never fail because their habits are too hard. They fail because they stop doing them. It's not the big failures that derail us. It's the slow, unnoticed fade into inconsistency. The great news? You can stop this from happening. In this chapter, we'll uncover the science of consistency, why people struggle to stay on track, and the exact strategies you need to make your habits unbreakable. Most people assume that staying consistent is a matter of willpower and motivation. They think that if they could just stay inspired all the time, they'd never struggle with consistency. But here's the truth. Motivation is unreliable. It's like the weather. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. If you only take action when you feel motivated, your progress will always be inconsistent. The real key to lasting habits isn't motivation. It's creating a system that makes consistency automatic. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up and debate whether you're motivated to do it. You just do it because it's part of your daily routine. That's the level of automaticity we need to build with our habits. The more effort it takes to start a habit, the easier it is to skip it. But if the habit is embedded in your routine, it happens without resistance. The key is not to focus on staying motivated, but on designing an environment where taking action feels effortless. The power of never missing twice. One of the most important rules for consistency is what I call the never miss twice rule. It's simple. If you miss a habit once, make sure you do it the very next day. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the beginning of a new habit, the habit of not doing it. Let's say you've committed to working out, but you skip a session. Instead of feeling guilty, panicked, or defeated, you remind yourself, one miss doesn't matter, but 2 in a row can kill my progress. The next day, even if you don't feel like it, you show up. Maybe you don't do a full workout. Maybe you just stretch, do a few squats, or jog for 5 minutes. The key isn't perfection. It's proving to yourself that you're still in the game. Habits are built through repetition, not intensity. The more you reinforce the identity of someone who stays consistent, the easier it becomes to maintain. The role of identity in consistency. If you struggle with staying consistent, it's likely because you still see the habit as something external, something you do rather than something you are. But the real key to consistency is identity. When a behavior becomes part of who you are, consistency happens effortlessly. Think about someone who never misses a workout. It's not because they have superhuman motivation. It's because they see themselves as an athlete. Someone who never skips writing doesn't do it because they have endless willpower. It's because they see themselves as a writer. Your habits become easier when you shift from "I'm trying to do this" to "This is who I am." The goal isn't just to build habits, it's to become the kind of person who doesn't even question them. When you embody the identity of someone who shows up, consistency becomes second nature. The role of environment in staying on track. Your environment plays a huge role in whether you stay consistent. If your environment makes a habit difficult, it's only a matter of time before you stop doing it. But if your surroundings make it easy, consistency becomes automatic. Want to work out in the morning? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Want to read more? Keep books within easy reach. Want to eat healthier? Remove junk food from your kitchen. Make the desired behavior easier. If you have to fight against your environment every day, consistency will always feel like a struggle. But when your surroundings make the habit the default option, sticking with it feels effortless. Habit tracking. How to never fall off track. One of the most powerful tools for staying consistent is habit tracking. When you track your progress, you create a visual reminder of your commitment. Whether it's marking an X on a calendar, using a habit tracking app, or keeping a simple notebook log. Tracking keeps your habits top of mind and adds an extra layer of accountability. The key to effective tracking is keeping it simple. You don't need an elaborate system, just something that lets you see your progress. The real power of tracking isn't just in seeing the wins. It's in not wanting to break the streak. When you see a long chain of days where you've stuck with your habit, missing a day suddenly feels like something you don't want to do. That psychological pull is incredibly powerful in keeping you on track. The 1% rule? Why small wins matter more than you think. Consistency is not about being perfect every day. It's about making small improvements over time. This is the 1% rule. If you improve by just 1% every day, the results compound into something massive over time. Small daily actions might not feel like they matter in the moment, but over months and years, they create transformations that seem impossible at first. The mistake people make is expecting fast results. When they don't see immediate changes, they quit. But the real key to success is trusting the process. Habits work like compound interest. The biggest results come after consistent effort has had time to accumulate. If you keep showing up, progress is inevitable. Final thoughts. Making consistency. Your superpower? At the end of the day, consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's not about motivation, talent, or luck. It's about showing up again and again, even when it's not easy. The people who succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who never stop. If you've struggled with staying consistent in the past, don't beat yourself up. Instead, commit to the smallest version of the habit and build from there. Use the never miss twice rule. Set up an environment that makes success automatic and track your progress. When you master the art of consistency, you gain the ultimate advantage, the ability to create any change you want in life and make it last. Chapter 8. The hidden forces that shape your habits. How to make good habits unbreakable If willpower were the answer to long-term change, everyone would be successful. You'd never struggle to wake up early, never miss a workout, and never feel tempted by junk food. Yet, we all know that's not reality. No matter how disciplined or motivated you are, there will always be days when you don't feel like showing up. That's why the people who win at habit formation don't rely on willpower. They rely on systems. Think about your daily habits. Do you brush your teeth every morning because you're wildly motivated to do so? No, you do it because it's ingrained in your routine. That's the key. Successful people don't have more willpower. They simply design their lives in a way that makes good habits automatic. The real game isn't about trying harder. It's about making it easier. The best habits stick not because they require effort, but because they become the default option. The 4 laws of behavior change, the blueprint for lasting habits. Most people fail at habits because they focus on the wrong thing. They think they need more discipline or motivation, but in reality, they just need to make the right behaviors easier and the wrong behaviors harder. This is where the 4 laws of behavior change come in. A simple but incredibly powerful system for building habits that actually last. 1. Make it obvious. If a habit isn't easy to see or remember, you won't do it. If you want to eat healthier, put fruits and vegetables at eye level in your fridge. If you want to work out, lay out your clothes the night before. Your environment should scream the habit you want to build. 2. Make it attractive. Your brain is wired to seek rewards. If a habit feels boring or unpleasant, you won't stick with it. The trick? Pair it with something you enjoy. Want to read more? Only allow yourself to drink your favorite coffee when you're reading. Want to exercise? Listen to your favorite podcast while you work out. When a habit is enjoyable, it becomes effortless. 3. Make it easy. The harder something is, the less likely you are to do it. If your gym is 30 minutes away, you're less likely to go. But if it's in your home or right next to your workplace, it's a no-brainer. The easier a habit is, the more automatic it becomes. 4. Make it satisfying. Your brain needs an immediate reward to reinforce a habit. If there's no sense of progress or accomplishment, your motivation fades. This is why tracking habits works so well. When you see yourself improving, you feel a sense of achievement, which makes you want to keep going. The more satisfying a habit is, the longer it lasts. The power of environment, how to shape your surroundings for success. Have you ever noticed that certain behaviors feel effortless in some environments, but impossible in others? That's because your environment has a massive impact on your behavior. It's easy to eat junk food if your kitchen is full of chips and soda. It's easy to procrastinate if your phone is always within reach. It's easy to skip workouts if your gym clothes are buried at the back of your closet. If you want better habits, you need to design a better environment. One of the most powerful changes you can make is removing friction from good habits and adding friction to bad ones. If you want to spend less time on your phone, put it in another room when you're working. If you want to drink more water, keep a water bottle on your desk. If you want to start reading every night, place a book on your pillow. Small tweaks to your surroundings can make or break your habits. The role of identity. Becoming the person who sticks with good habits. Here's a truth that will change the way you see habits forever. Your habits are a reflection of your identity. If you see yourself as someone who tries to work out but isn't really an athlete, you'll struggle to stay consistent. But if you see yourself as a fit and active person, working out will feel natural. Instead of setting goals like, I want to lose weight, shift your focus to, I am the type of person who takes care of my health. Instead of saying, I want to read more, start identifying as a reader. Your actions will always follow your identity. The moment you shift from trying to being, consistency becomes effortless. How to break bad habits without relying on willpower. Breaking a bad habit is much harder than starting a good one because bad habits usually provide instant gratification. But there's a simple way to stop them without relying on willpower. Make them invisible, unattractive, hard, and unsatisfying. 1. Make it invisible. If you don't see the temptation, you won't crave it. Want to stop eating junk food? Keep it out of the house? Want to stop checking your phone at night? Leave it in another room. 2. Make it unattractive. Reframe the habit in a negative way. Instead of thinking, "I need to quit smoking," start telling yourself, "I am not the kind of person who poisons my body with cigarettes." The more you view the habit as something that goes against who you are, the easier it becomes to quit. 3. Make it hard. Increase the effort required to do the habit. If you want to stop watching Netflix late at night, log out of your account every time. If you want to stop scrolling social media, delete the app or install a blocker. 5. Make it unsatisfying. Add consequences. One trick: use an accountability partner. If you don't go to the gym, you owe your friend $10. If you eat junk food, you have to do 50 push-ups. When there's a downside to a bad habit, you're less likely to do it. Final thoughts. The hidden forces are always at play. Use them to your advantage. Every day, your habits are being shaped by invisible forces. Your environment, your identity, the level of effort required, and the rewards tied to your behaviors. If you're not intentional about shaping these forces in your favor, they'll work against you. The key isn't to have more willpower or discipline. It's to design a system where good habits happen naturally and bad habits become impossible. By following the 4 laws of behavior change, designing an environment that supports you, and shifting your identity to align with your goals, you can make consistency effortless. And once a habit becomes effortless, success becomes inevitable. Chapter 9. The Power of Small Wins: How Tiny Changes Lead to Massive Results. Everywhere you look, people seem to be obsessed with overnight success stories. Social media is flooded with posts about people who lost 50 pounds in 2 months, made $1 million in 6 months, or completely transformed their lives overnight. But what these stories don't show you is the years of tiny, unseen efforts that built up behind the scenes. The truth is, real success is never the result of a single, massive action. It's always the result of tiny, consistent improvements that compound over time. Every tiny win matters. If you improve by just 1% every day, you'll be 37 times better in a year. But if you decline by 1% every day, you'll quickly spiral into failure. Habits are a double-edged sword. They can either work for you or against you. The key to success isn't about making huge leaps. It's about making sure your daily habits are working in your favor. Most people underestimate the power of small habits because they don't see results immediately. If you start going to the gym today, you won't see a 6-pack tomorrow. If you start eating healthy today, you won't lose 10 pounds overnight. This is why most people quit too soon. They expect instant results, and when they don't see them, they assume their efforts aren't working. But habits work like compounding interest. The results aren't visible at first, but over time, they explode in value. Imagine a block of ice sitting in a room that's 25 degrees Fahrenheit. You start raising the temperature, 26 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 degrees Fahrenheit, but nothing happens. The ice doesn't melt. You keep going. 29 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 31 degrees Fahrenheit, still no change. But the moment the temperature hits 32 degrees Fahrenheit, everything shifts. The ice starts melting. That final degree wasn't what caused the change. The entire process did. This is how habits work. The early efforts feel invisible, but they're building up beneath the surface. And when you finally reach the tipping point, results seem to happen all at once. How to stay motivated when progress feels invisible. One of the biggest reasons people give up on habits is because they feel like they're putting in effort without seeing results. But the key to staying motivated isn't focusing on the outcome. It's focusing on the process. Your job isn't to control the results. Your job is to show up and trust the system. Think of a writer who wants to publish a best-selling book. If they focus on sales numbers, they'll feel frustrated when their first book doesn't take off. But if they focus on the process, writing every day, improving their craft, building an audience, the results will take care of themselves. Instead of asking, "When will I see results?" ask yourself, "Did I show up today?" If you focus on taking action every day, progress is inevitable. The key is to fall in love with the process, not just the outcome. The power of identity-based habits, becoming the person who wins. One of the most powerful ways to make small wins stick is to tie them to your identity. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. If you want to become fit, don't just set a goal to lose weight. Become the type of person who never skips workouts. If you want to become a reader, don't just set a goal to read more books. Become the type of person who never goes to bed without reading. Your habits should reflect your identity, because when a behavior is part of who you are, it becomes effortless. This is why small wins matter so much. Every time you complete a habit, you're reinforcing the identity you want. Every time you go to the gym, you prove to yourself that you're an athlete. Every time you write, you prove to yourself that you're a writer. Every small action is a vote for the person you want to become. How to make small wins stick, the secret to long-term success. Most people struggle with habits because they try to do too much at once. They start a strict diet, an intense workout routine, and a new morning routine all at the same time. But habits that last are built gradually. The key is to start ridiculously small. If you want to start reading, don't commit to reading an entire book. Commit to reading just one page. If you want to start exercising, don't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to just 5 push-ups. It might sound too easy, but that's the point. When a habit is easy, you're more likely to do it. And once you start, you naturally do more. One of the best ways to reinforce a small win is to track it visually. Use a habit tracker, cross off days on a calendar, or use an app to log your progress. Seeing your streak grow gives you a small dopamine boost, making you want to continue. Final thoughts. Success is the sum of tiny choices. At the end of the day, your success isn't determined by big dramatic changes. It's the result of tiny daily choices that compound over time. The biggest mistake you can make is to dismiss small habits just because they seem insignificant. Every bite of food, every workout, every book you read, every dollar you save, it all adds up. The habits you repeat every day are shaping your future, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are your habits working for you or against you? You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to start small, stay consistent, and trust the process. The results will come, and when they do, they'll feel effortless. Because by that point, you'll have become the kind of person who naturally succeeds. Chapter 10. Mastering the Plateau, How to Keep Going. When progress stalls, you start a new habit with excitement. The first few weeks feel incredible. You're energized, motivated, and convinced this time will be different. You see progress. Maybe the number on the scale drops, your bank account grows, or your productivity skyrockets. But then something happens. The progress slows. It feels like you're doing everything right, but nothing is changing. Welcome to the plateau. This is the stage where most people quit. Not because they don't want success, but because they don't understand how progress really works. They assume success should be linear. Effort in, results out. But the truth is, growth happens in waves. There will always be long periods where it feels like nothing is happening. What separates those who succeed from those who fail isn't motivation. It's their ability to keep going when progress seems invisible. The power of the plateau. Why sticking it out leads to breakthroughs. The plateau isn't a sign of failure. It's a test. It's the part of the journey where your brain is adapting, even if you can't see it yet. This is where real transformation happens. Think of a bamboo tree. After planting the seed, nothing happens for years. It stays underground, growing roots. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, it explodes upward, growing over 90 feet in just a few weeks. The truth? The bamboo wasn't growing overnight. It was preparing all along. This is exactly how habits work. The results you want aren't immediate because the real work is happening beneath the surface. The problem is, most people quit before they reach their breakthrough. The ones who succeed are the ones who trust the process, even when they don't see immediate results. The dip versus the dead end. When to push through and when to pivot. Not all plateaus are the same. Sometimes you hit a temporary dip, a moment where progress slows but will eventually pick up again. Other times, you're in a dead end, a situation where no matter how hard you push, you're on the wrong path. The key is knowing the difference. The dip is hard but worth pushing through. It's the extra workouts before the results show. It's the struggle to grow a business before it takes off. It's the early mornings writing a book before you get noticed. Almost every success story involves pushing through the dip. But then there's the dead end. This is when no matter how hard you work, the effort isn't leading anywhere. Maybe it's the job that's never going to promote you, the diet that's unsustainable, the business model that has no demand. The key to long-term success is knowing when to persist and when to pivot. A simple way to figure this out? Ask yourself, if I continue this for another 6 months, will I eventually see results? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, it might be time to change your approach. The science of sticking with it. How to stay consistent. When progress is slow. When progress slows, motivation fades. This is why most people struggle to stick with habits. They rely on feeling motivated instead of designing a system that keeps them going, even when they don't feel like it. The trick? Use momentum, not motivation. Build habits that don't require willpower to maintain. This is where habit stacking comes in, a method where you attach a new habit to something you already do. Instead of relying on motivation to work out, you make it part of your morning routine. Instead of trying to read more, you read for 5 minutes after brushing your teeth. The less effort it takes to continue a habit, the more likely you are to stick with it. Another trick? Track your progress. When you're in a plateau, it's easy to forget how far you've come. Keeping a simple record of your habits reminds you that even if the results aren't obvious, you're still making progress. And the more consistent you are, the closer you get to your breakthrough. The breakthrough effect. Why success happens. Suddenly, but isn't really sudden. There's a moment in every journey where things suddenly click. The weight finally drops. The business finally takes off. The skill finally becomes second nature. To outsiders, it looks like overnight success. But those who experienced it know the truth. The breakthrough only happened because of the work that came before it. Imagine trying to break a rock with a hammer. You hit it once. Nothing happens. You hit it again. Still nothing. You keep going, 10, 20, 50 times, no visible cracks. But then, on the 100th strike, the rock splits open. Was it that final hit that did it? It was the accumulation of every single strike before it. Success works the same way. The person who suddenly loses weight, it was the months of healthy choices that led there. The entrepreneur who, overnight, becomes a millionaire, it was years of effort compounding. The breakthrough only happens because of the work that came before it. Final thoughts. Trust the process. The reward is on the other side of the plateau. Most people quit when progress slows. They assume it's not working. But the ones who succeed are the ones who keep going when things feel pointless. They understand that every habit, every effort, every repetition is moving them closer to their breakthrough, even when it doesn't feel like it. The plateau is not the end. It's the path. If you can learn to master the plateau, to trust the process, stay consistent, and keep moving forward even when you don't see results, you'll eventually reach the tipping point. And when that moment comes, everything changes. Chapter 11. The Hidden Power of Environment. Shaping your surroundings for success. Most people believe that success is about willpower. They think that if they just try hard enough, they can force themselves to do the right things, resist temptations, and build strong habits. But here's the hard truth. Willpower is a limited resource. No matter how strong your motivation is, there will come a time when you feel tired, unmotivated, or simply overwhelmed. And in those moments, if your environment isn't set up for success, you will fail. Think about it. Have you ever tried to eat healthy while keeping junk food in the house? Or tried to focus on deep work while your phone keeps buzzing with notifications? The reality is, our environment shapes our behavior far more than we realize. If you constantly rely on self-control to avoid bad habits, you're fighting a battle that you're destined to lose. The smarter approach? Redesign your environment so that good habits become the default and bad habits become difficult. The influence of your physical environment on your habits. We like to think that we make conscious choices every day, but in reality, most of our actions are triggered by our surroundings. Studies show that people eat significantly more when they use larger plates. They drink more soda when they use bigger cups. They reach for unhealthy snacks more often when they're within easy reach. Our behaviors are shaped by the cues in our environment, often without us even realizing it. This is why small changes in your surroundings can lead to massive improvements in your habits. If you want to start working out consistently, don't rely on motivation. Make it easy. Leave your workout clothes next to your bed so they're the first thing you see in the morning. If you want to read more, place a book on your pillow so you're reminded every night before bed. If you want to drink more water, keep a water bottle on your desk. The key is to design your environment so that the right choices happen effortlessly. On the flip side, if you want to break a bad habit, you need to create friction. Make it harder to do the thing you're trying to avoid. If you want to stop snacking on junk food, don't keep it in the house. If you want to spend less time on social media, remove the apps from your home screen or log out after every session. The easier a habit is, the more likely you are to do it. The harder a habit is, the less likely it is to stick. Your environment should make good habits easy and bad habits inconvenient. The power of people, how social environments shape your behavior. It's not just our physical surroundings that influence our habits. The people around us play an even bigger role. Whether we realize it or not, we tend to adopt the behaviors, attitudes, and habits of those we spend the most time with. If you surround yourself with people who are fit, you're more likely to adopt a healthy lifestyle. If you spend time with people who are ambitious, you'll naturally push yourself harder. But if you're constantly around negativity, procrastination, or unhealthy habits, you'll absorb those behaviors too. This is why choosing your social circle carefully is one of the most powerful things you can do for personal growth. If you want to build better habits, surround yourself with people who already have the habits you want. Join a running group if you want to be more active. Spend time with entrepreneurs if you want to grow a business. Connect with readers if you want to read more. The easiest way to change your behavior is to join a group where your desired habit is the normal behavior. But what if you can't control your environment? Maybe your coworkers have unhealthy habits, or your family isn't supportive of your goals. In these cases, you need to be intentional about creating new influences. Listen to podcasts, read books, and follow people online who represent the habits and lifestyle you aspire to. Even if you can't change your entire social circle, you can still create an environment that pushes you in the right direction. The science of habit triggers. How to design a space that encourages success. One of the most effective ways to build better habits is to use habit triggers, small cues in your environment that remind you to take action. These can be as simple as placing your workout clothes in plain sight or setting your phone to airplane mode while working. The goal is to reduce decision fatigue and make good habits automatic. A great way to do this is by designating specific spaces for specific activities. If you want to be more productive, don't work from your bed. Set up a dedicated workspace. If you want to sleep better, don't scroll on your phone in bed. Train your brain to associate your bed only with sleep. Your brain loves patterns, and when your environment clearly signals what should happen in each space, your habits become much easier to maintain. The ultimate habit hack: using environment to make change effortless. If you take one thing from this chapter, let it be this: your environment is more powerful than your willpower. If you constantly have to resist bad habits, your environment is working against you. If good habits feel like a struggle, your environment isn't set up for success. The secret to lasting change isn't about trying harder. It's about designing your surroundings to make success inevitable. Want to eat healthier? Make healthy food the most visible and accessible option. Want to be more productive? Remove distractions before you even start working. Want to work out more? Make it easier to start than to skip. The less effort it takes to make the right choices, the more likely you are to follow through. At the end of the day, you don't need more motivation. You need better systems. Build an environment where success is the default, and you'll be amazed at how quickly good habits become second nature. Chapter 12. Identity-based habits. How to become the person you want to be. Most people approach change by setting outcome-based goals. They say things like, I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to earn 6 figures. Or, I want to read 50 books this year. At first glance, this seems logical. After all, if you don't define what you want, how will you achieve it? But the problem with this approach is that it focuses on results rather than the system behind them. When you chase an outcome without changing your identity, any progress you make will be temporary. Take weight loss as an example. Let's say you set a goal to lose 20 pounds. You start a diet, work out consistently, and after months of effort, you reach your goal. But here's the catch: you never changed your identity. You still see yourself as someone who struggles with weight, someone who has to force themselves to exercise, someone who fights against their natural tendencies. So, what happens next? The weight comes back, because while you changed your behavior temporarily, you never shifted the way you see yourself. This is why outcome-based habits rarely stick. Real change happens at the identity level. You don't need to change what you do. You need to change who you believe you are. Instead of setting a goal to run a marathon, become a runner. Instead of trying to force yourself to eat healthy, become a healthy person. Instead of struggling to be productive, become a highly disciplined individual. When your identity shifts, your behavior naturally follows. Identity-based habits, the secret to long-term success. The fastest way to build a lasting habit is to start with identity, not outcomes. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you wish to become. If you want to be someone who reads, prove it to yourself by reading a single page every night. If you want to be a fit person, prove it by doing 5 push-ups. It doesn't matter how small the action is. What matters is that every choice reinforces the identity you want to adopt. Consider the difference between 2 people who are trying to quit smoking. The first person, when offered a cigarette, says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." The first person still sees themselves as a smoker who is trying to change. The second person has already decided that they are someone different. And because of that identity shift, the second person is far more likely to succeed. This principle applies to every habit. If you want to become a writer, don't just write occasionally. Identify as someone who writes every day. If you want to be someone who wakes up early, don't just force yourself out of bed. Become the kind of person who values mornings. When you see yourself as the type of person who does something, it no longer requires effort. It becomes automatic. The two-step process to reinventing yourself. So, how do you shift your identity? It's a two-step process. 1. Decide the type of person you want to become. What kind of habits would that person have? What decisions would they make daily? Be as specific as possible. If you want to be a fit person, that means exercising regularly, prioritizing sleep, and making healthy food choices. If you want to be financially responsible, that means tracking expenses, living below your means, and investing wisely. You need a clear vision of the identity you are building. 2. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Identity is not built in a single moment. It's built through repeated actions. Every time you make a choice that aligns with your desired identity, you reinforce that identity. If you want to be a writer, write something, even if it's just one sentence. If you want to be someone who meditates, sit in silence for 1 minute. Every small win is proof that you are becoming the person you want to be. The more votes you cast for your new identity, the stronger it becomes. And once that identity is established, habits no longer feel forced, they feel natural. Why identity-based habits stick while goal-based habits fail? When your habits are tied to a specific goal, they only last until you reach that goal. Someone who diets to lose 20 pounds will often revert to old habits once they reach that number. A student who studies just to pass an exam will stop learning once the test is over. But when your habits are tied to your identity, they stick with you for life. Think about someone who identifies as an athlete. They don't need to force themselves to work out. It's simply part of who they are. A musician doesn't have to set a goal to practice. They play because they love music. The key to lasting change is to shift your focus from what you want to achieve to who you want to become. Every action you take is a vote for your future self. The more consistent you are, the stronger your new identity becomes. Redefining yourself. Letting go of old labels. One of the biggest obstacles to changing your identity is the story you tell yourself. Many people hold on to old labels that no longer serve them. They say things like, "I've always been bad with money." "I'm just not a morning person." "I'm terrible at sticking to habits." But these statements are not facts. They're just beliefs. And the good news? Beliefs can be changed. The moment you stop identifying with negative labels, you open the door for transformation. If you've always seen yourself as someone who struggles with fitness, start calling yourself an active person. If you've believed you're bad at saving money, start identifying as someone who is financially responsible. The way you describe yourself shapes your reality. Choose your words carefully. You are not stuck being the person you've always been. You have the power to rewrite your identity at any time. The only thing standing between who you are now and who you want to be is the story you tell yourself. Change the story, and you change your life. At the core of every habit is identity. If you see yourself as someone who eats healthy, exercises, and wakes up early, those behaviors will happen naturally. If you see yourself as someone who procrastinates, struggles with money, or lacks discipline, you will continue to act in ways that reinforce those beliefs. You don't need to change overnight. You just need to start casting votes for the person you want to become. Every decision you make is shaping your future self. Start today. Start small. And before you know it, you'll have transformed into the person you always wanted to be. Chapter 13. The Power of Tracking. How to measure progress and stay on track. One of the biggest reasons people fail to maintain good habits isn't lack of motivation, lack of knowledge, or even lack of discipline. It's lack of awareness. We like to believe that we have an accurate sense of how we spend our time, how healthy our diet is, how much money we save, and how consistent we are with our goals. But the truth? Most of us overestimate our good habits and underestimate our bad ones. If you ask the average person how much time they spend on social media, they'll give you a number that's far lower than reality. If you ask them how often they exercise, they'll probably say regularly, when it's actually once a week at best. If you ask them how much they spend on eating out, they might estimate a fraction of what their bank statements would reveal. This isn't because people are dishonest. It's because our brains naturally filter out inconvenient truths. This is where tracking comes in. What gets measured gets managed. The moment you start tracking a habit, whether it's your workouts, your spending, your screen time, or your daily writing, you stop relying on memory and start seeing the cold, hard facts. And facts don't lie. Once you have data, you can't ignore your patterns. You can't tell yourself you're being consistent when the numbers say otherwise. You can't claim you're saving money when your expenses tell a different story. Tracking forces you to confront reality, and reality is the only place where true change happens. Why tracking your habits boosts motivation. Most people think of tracking as a chore, but when done right, it becomes a powerful source of motivation. Why? Because progress is addictive. There's a reason apps like Duolingo and Apple's activity rings are so effective. They don't just remind you to practice your language skills or close your fitness rings. They show you your progress in real time. Every time you see your streak increase or your completion rate go up, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine, reinforcing the habit. Progress, even in small increments, is deeply satisfying. This is why people who track their workouts are more likely to keep exercising. It's why those who track their finances are more likely to save money. It's why writers who log their daily word count are more likely to finish their books. When you see progress, you're naturally motivated to continue. Even the smallest wins become proof that you're moving forward, and that proof is often all you need to stay on track. The key is to make tracking effortless. If it feels like a burden, you won't stick with it. But if it's simple and rewarding, it becomes part of your habit loop. Some people use habit tracking apps, others prefer a simple notebook, and some just use a calendar to mark off each day they complete their habit. It doesn't matter how you track, it only matters that you do. How to track effectively without getting overwhelmed. One of the biggest mistakes people make with tracking is trying to measure everything at once. They start logging their calories, their workouts, their sleep patterns, their screen time, their productivity levels, and within a week, they're burned out. Tracking should enhance your life, not overwhelm you. The best approach? Start with one key habit. Choose the habit that will have the greatest impact on your life, whether it's exercising, saving money, waking up early, or writing daily, and track only that. Once tracking becomes second nature, you can add another habit if you want. Also, keep your tracking system simple. If it takes more than a few seconds to record your progress, you won't stick with it. A check mark on a calendar, a quick note in your phone, or an automatic app update is all you need. The goal is to make tracking so easy that skipping it feels unnatural. The power of streaks. Why missing one day matters more than you think. If you've ever started a new habit and then missed a day, you've probably told yourself, "It's just one day. It doesn't matter." But here's the harsh reality. Missing one day is the first step toward quitting entirely. There's a psychological phenomenon called the "what the hell" effect. It happens when we mess up once and then decide, that since we've already failed, we might as well go all in. You eat one unhealthy meal and think, I've already ruined my diet, so I'll just eat whatever I want today. You miss one workout and tell yourself, I'll just restart next week. Before you know it, one small mistake turns into a total collapse. The best way to avoid this? Follow the 2-day rule. Never miss twice. If you break your streak, that's fine, but make sure you get back on track immediately. A single missed workout won't ruin your fitness. One skipped writing session won't stop you from finishing your book. A single lapse in your diet won't derail your progress. But 2 in a row? That's where habits start to fall apart. Missing 1 day is an accident. Missing 2 is the beginning of a new habit, the habit of not doing it. The most successful people aren't perfect. They don't have flawless streaks, but they are consistent. They bounce back quickly. They don't let one mistake turn into a pattern. The identity shift, how tracking reinforces who you are tracking, isn't just about measuring progress. It's about reinforcing your identity. Every time you log a workout, you're not just exercising. You're proving to yourself that you are someone who values fitness. Every time you track your spending, you're reinforcing the belief that you are financially responsible. Every time you record your daily writing, you're not just producing words, you're solidifying your identity as a writer. This is why tracking makes habits stick. It's not just about numbers. It's about creating undeniable evidence that you are the person you want to become. When you have months of data showing that you work out regularly, you no longer see yourself as someone who tries to stay fit. You see yourself as an athlete. When you have a long streak of daily meditation, you don't have to force yourself to meditate. You simply are a person who meditates. If you want to build a strong identity, tracking is one of the best tools available. It eliminates self-doubt. It removes excuses. It replaces vague feelings of progress with concrete proof. When you track, you don't have to wonder if you're improving. You'll see it. Success doesn't happen overnight. Habits don't form instantly. But when you track your progress, you eliminate guesswork. You remove the illusion of effort and replace it with real, measurable proof. And when you see that proof, you no longer rely on motivation. You rely on momentum. If you're serious about making lasting changes in your life, start tracking today. Pick one habit. Make it easy. Stay consistent. And remember, small actions, repeated consistently, lead to massive transformation. Chapter 14. Mastering the Art of Continuous Improvement, the Path to Lifelong Growth. Many people assume that once they develop good habits, achieve success, or reach a certain milestone, the work is done. They believe that once they get in shape, build wealth, or master a skill, they can simply coast. But the truth is, success isn't a final destination. It's a moving target. What got you to your current level won't necessarily keep you there. Growth isn't something you achieve once and for all. It's something you must continuously nurture, refine, and expand. This is why some people achieve greatness while others stagnate. The ones who keep evolving, who refine their habits, and who seek constant improvement remain at the top. The ones who become complacent, they plateau or regress. Consider professional athletes. Reaching the top of their game doesn't mean they stop training. They refine their technique, adjust their strategy, and keep pushing their limits. The same applies to every area of life, whether it's business, fitness, relationships, or personal development. You must embrace the mindset that progress never stops. The moment you stop improving, you begin declining. It's an uncomfortable truth, but it's also liberating, because it means you always have the power to shape your future. You don't have to be the smartest, strongest, or most talented person in the room. You just need to be the one who is willing to keep learning, adapting, and improving. The greatest advantage you can have in life isn't raw talent. It's the commitment to lifelong growth. The 1% rule? Small improvements that create massive results. Most people think improvement requires drastic action. They believe that to see real change, they need to overhaul their entire routine, adopt extreme discipline, or make huge sacrifices. But the truth is, small, consistent improvements lead to the biggest transformations. Consider this. If you improve just 1% every day, by the end of a year, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. That's the power of compounding. Small changes might feel insignificant in the moment, but over time, they stack up into extraordinary results. Think about how this applies to different areas of life. If you save a tiny percentage of your income every month over time, you build wealth. If you improve your fitness routine just slightly each week, you transform your body. If you read a few pages daily, your knowledge expands exponentially. Consistency beats intensity. The people who try to make extreme changes often burn out. The ones who focus on small, steady progress, they sustain success over the long run. The challenge is that small improvements don't always feel rewarding in the moment. If you go to the gym today, you won't wake up tomorrow with visible muscles. If you read for 10 minutes, you won't suddenly be an expert. This is why many people give up too soon. They expect immediate results, and when they don't see them, they get discouraged. But the people who stay committed, who trust in the process, and who focus on progress, not perfection, they are the ones who win. The feedback loop: how to adjust and improve over time. The key to continuous improvement isn't just repetition, it's refinement. If you keep doing the same thing without evaluating your progress, you'll hit a plateau. This is why feedback is essential. You need to consistently analyze what's working, what's not, and how you can adjust. Think about how a pilot navigates a flight. A plane is rarely on the exact flight path from start to finish. Instead, pilots constantly make small adjustments based on weather, wind, and altitude changes. These course corrections keep the plane on track. Your habits work the same way. If you never stop to assess your progress, you might drift off course without realizing it. A simple way to apply this is the weekly review. Set aside time each week to ask yourself key questions. What's working well? Where am I falling short? What's one small change I can make to improve? This process allows you to refine your approach and avoid stagnation. The most successful people in the world aren't just the ones who work hard, they're the ones who adapt, refine, and optimize as they go. The identity shift: becoming the kind of person who keeps growing. The most powerful aspect of continuous improvement isn't just external progress, it's the internal transformation. The more you refine your habits, the more your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to be disciplined, fit, or successful. You simply become the person who embodies those qualities. If you commit to lifelong growth, you develop an identity of resilience. You don't see obstacles as failures. You see them as lessons. You don't fear setbacks. You use them as fuel to improve. You don't get complacent. You stay hungry for growth. This mindset shift is what separates the best from the rest. Many people start strong but fade over time. The ones who keep improving, who embrace challenges, and who never stop growing, those are the ones who achieve extraordinary success. How to make continuous improvement a way of life. So, how do you ensure you never stop growing? How do you make improvement a natural, effortless part of your life? Here are 3 key principles. 1. Commit to learning daily. Whether it's reading, listening to podcasts, or seeking mentorship, always be learning. The more knowledge you gain, the more perspectives you develop, and the faster you improve. 2. Surround yourself with growth-oriented people. The people around you shape your mindset. Spend time with those who push you to be better, who challenge your thinking, and who inspire you to keep growing. Third set: Incremental challenges. Never stay in your comfort zone. Set small challenges that push you just beyond your current capabilities. Whether it's lifting slightly heavier weights, writing a little more each day, or taking on a new responsibility, these small challenges keep you progressing. Success isn't about reaching a final goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who never stops evolving. The world's most successful people aren't the ones who had one breakthrough moment. They're the ones who kept improving year after year. This isn't just about habits. It's not just about discipline. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. Growth is a lifelong journey. There will be setbacks, there will be plateaus, but if you commit to continuous improvement, if you embrace small daily progress, refine your approach, and never stop learning, you will achieve far more than you ever imagined. The real secret to success isn't talent, luck, or even hard work. It's the ability to keep getting better. Never stop improving, and your future will be limitless.